Hello English 111. Today I'm going to teach you how to build a computer. So basically every computer has 5 main components to make it post. Post is the power on self-test. When you power on self-test, basically something shows up on the screen and it runs the test to make sure all the 5 main components that I'm about to show you are actually working. The first, well, they're not really numbered, but one of the main components is the motherboard. And the motherboard is basically like your body, like all the peripherals attached to the motherboard, like your USB connections and all that other stuff. Then you have your RAM, random access memory, which basically the more RAM you have, the faster your computer runs. And RAM is memory, but not to get confused with the hard drive right here, because the hard drive, when you turn your computer on, loads information into the memory, which is faster. Many ask, why wouldn't you just load the stuff from the memory in the first place? That's because since it's random access memory, once the computer goes off, all the information is lost out of this. So before a computer does turn off, the information from the RAM is loaded back on the hard drive to be stored. This is needed for your computer to work. Next, the video card. Video card is basically what you plug into the motherboard to then plug your screen in. Then here's the CPU. It's actually covered by a heatsink on this computer, which is very complicated to remove. And then I'll show you on another computer how to remove that and what a CPU actually looks like. So here's a heatsink. I'm gonna take it off. This is the heatsink that protects the CPU. The CPU is this little thing, and CPU stands for Central Processing Unit, and it's basically the brains of your computer. Like everything that happens runs through the CPU, and it processes. Now CPUs get very, 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 very hot, so this is a heatsink and this is a fan. And they basically just cool the CPU down, because without a heatsink and a fan nowadays, with modern computers, it would fry within seconds to minutes, because it would be hundreds of degrees hot. So we'll put that back together later. Watch this. Thermal compound, white stuff, between the heatsink and the CPU conducts heat very well to transfer the heat from the CPU from the CPU to the heatsink. Okay. So now that we finished the CPU, one of the most important parts, come over here, step around, is the power supply, because that powers the whole computer, obviously. Now the power supplies come in different wattages. The more peripherals you're going to be attaching to your computer, like advanced video cards and better processors and stuff, the bigger the power supply you're going to need to power all of your peripherals. So, now we're going to attempt to build this computer. Always make sure, even though if we were building this from scratch, this wouldn't even be in here yet. Always make sure that your power supply is not connected to your motherboard whenever you're putting in and taking out parts. So first you would have your case to your computer. You would screw in your motherboard. Then I'll just do the RAM first. Take the RAM. Alright. No, that's not it. You go to the video card. Plug it in the AGP port. That's where the video cards usually go. Or a PCI. Alright. Now that that's seated properly, your next steps would to be to install the processor exactly how I showed you back there. Put the heat sink on, and then make sure the power supply is secure. Plug in. Also, I forgot to state before I started messing with this computer, you might not notice me touch this power supply right here, because you need to ground yourself before you ever start working on a computer, because there's this thing called ESD, which is electrostatic discharge, and it's basically like when you shock someone, you know, you build up a charge as you're going around, and you may not notice when you touch a computer component, but if you do shock it, you might not notice. It could destroy the entire computer. So anything that's plugged into a wall and is metal, you touch it and you're grounded. So I touched this power supply, or if you want to do that, you can touch a toaster and you're safely grounded. Alright? So now that I did that, power supply's in and everything, I'm gonna give the motherboard power by plugging this from the power supply in. Also, this isn't a vital step to building I mean, nowadays I guess it is, but it's not one of the main components, but a hard drive, right here, is for, is what you're gonna have your operating system on and everything. So I'm leaving that plugged in. So all you do is plug the IDE cable from here into the hard drive, and then plug the power cable from the power supply into the hard drive. And now we are ready to boot up and have we just built a computer. But as you can see, we don't have a keyboard right now. The computer is working. Congratulations, English 111. You have just built a computer.